Where there's light, there's shadow.
It's our time with Mr. Mayberry. Hey, let's get creative.
Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Mayberry.
You probably already know that if the light is on one side of an object, the shadow will be on the opposite side. It will be on the other side, no matter where that object may be. But one thing you may not know, or may not have thought about, is that if the object itself is on the ground, the shadow that it creates will be touching the base of that object. But if the shadow or the object is in the skies, in the air, the shadow will be down below the object, but it won't be touching the object itself. Today we're going to be drawing a picture of items that are on the ground and in the air and the shadows they create. So let's get started. It's time to make some art. Today we start with our paper horizontal. Also we call that the landscape way. And the first thing I did was to put a horizon line. This is the sky line. Everything above it is the sky. Everything below it is the ground. After you have that, then we're going to add a sun to our paper, but don't put your sun on there just yet because I want you to think about a few things before we do that. So I put my sun, though, in the upper right-hand corner, and we're going to be drawing some things on the ground and some things in the sky, and I'm going to recommend that you do at least 2 things on the ground and 1 thing in the sky. And I'm going to start off by having some shapes. Now, the reason I use shapes is because it'll give you an idea of how I'd like you to do this project, but I don't want you to use shapes in yours. I want you to think of things that are actually in the sky, like maybe clouds or birds or balloons, things like that, and things that would be on the ground, maybe a house or a tree or a person or some kind of animal. So you can replace these shapes with actual things that you would find in the sky or the ground. Now, we talked about, in the opening I mentioned that things on the ground, the shadow will touch the object on the ground, and things in the sky, the shadow will not touch that object because it'll be down below. And I want you to see, though, have an example here of how you can do each one of these. And so what I've done here, my sun is in the upper right hand corner, and then I'm going to draw a shadow for this circle, and since the sun is on the right, the shadow is going to be where? If you said on the left, that's correct. So the sun's on the right, so the shadow is going to be on the left. So I'm going to draw a circle shape here. Now it's going to look probably more like an oval from this angle. So I'm going to draw the shadow on the left side, and I'm going to go ahead and shade that in. You'll notice that the shadow is not touching the circle that's above. When something is in the sky, the shadow won't touch it. It'll be down below on the ground, but you'll see it, but it won't touch it. Okay, next I want to do the triangle shape, and the sun is again shining from the right side, so the shadow will be on the left. And what I want you to know is that the shadow will keep the same kind of a shape as the object that I drew here. So this is a triangle shape, so the shadow will be a triangle shape as well. It's going to touch at the base, and it's going to slant down at an angle like this. And so here you see it's a longer triangle, but it's still a triangle. It's still the same kind of shape. So if you drew a tree, your shadow on the ground would look like a tree, look like the same thing. It's just going to be going away from the light, away from the sun. And the same with this square. The shadow will go away from the light. It'll still touch at the bottom, and it keeps, now this looks more like a diamond or a parallelogram, but that's the way it would look if it's going away from the light. So again, this object in the sky, the shadow doesn't touch it. And the objects on the ground, the shadow touch at the base. And if the sun is on the right side or light is on the right side, the shadows will be on the left side. Let's take a look at what happens if the sun is on the left side. If the sun is on the left side shining down, the shadows again will be on the right side. The one in the sky, the shadow does not touch it, but the ones on the ground, the shadow touches the object and it keeps the same shape as the object. So if you have a bird in the sky, the shadow will be shaped like a bird. If you have a house on the ground, the shadow will be shaped like a house. Let's look at one more view, and that's if the sun is shining from straight above. If the sun is above, the shadows will all be below. Again, something in the sky, the shadow doesn't touch it, keeps the same kind of shape. But if it's on the ground, the shadow touches at the base. And in this case, the shadows are going straight down because they're going away from the sun. Okay, so what you're going to do today is you're going to start off by turning your paper horizontal, the landscape way, and then you're going to draw horizon line, your horizon line, the sky line. And remember, this is the sky above and the ground below. Then you'll draw your three objects. Draw something in the sky, draw two things on the ground. Now you could draw more than that, but I would like you to start with at least one object in the sky, one thing in the sky, two things on the ground. And don't use shapes. Don't use circles, triangles, or squares. And then, after you have your objects drawn, figure out where you would like your sun to be. Would you like it to be on the left, in the middle, or on the right? So you'll draw your sun, and then you'll figure out where the shadow should be based on where the sun is in your picture. And so you draw the shadow of the object in the air, not touching the object, but just on the ground, and draw the shadow of the objects on the ground, touching the bottom of whatever they are, whatever the object is. And this is our project for today, drawing shadows of objects in the sky and on the ground. For more shadow fun, go outside on a warm sunny day and draw the shadows that you see. Thank you for coming to art class, and I'll see you next time.
Goodbye, Mr. Mayberry.
And where there is shadow, there is light.